for your patience.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Deputy Chief, for your presence here tonight and for indulging our questions. So I think it may have been a very timely recess, so we get a little bit of a do-over. So I think the bill I want to inquire about is Assembly Bill 481.
Yes.
And I believe that it is Assembly Bill 481 that basically leads to the process or requires the process of a police department disclosing what military grade equipment they possess, as well as give any details on its use. So I think we may have got our wires crossed, because I think when I posed that as a question, I think you answered no, but I think maybe you mean yes?
So what I mean by yes is that we already did that, right? And so now this part requires us, that bill now requires us every year, which is where we are right now.
Yes.
Right, to present our use, all of our equipment that we have, that we have, and its use. And we're supposed to have a publicly, we're required to do a report every time we use it, right? And then, which is in that report that was sent to everyone. And then we have to have a public meeting to talk about those particular issues that we talked about. So we've already gone over we already did as a group, all of us together. And then you guys with that language presented to council that list of everything that we have as far as our military equipment. We then, as a police department, every single time we get a new piece of equipment, have to come and present that to this committee. Well, we don't have to. We have to just go to council, or we can list it. I have taken the approach that everything that we do has to come before this board. Any new piece of equipment has to come before this board and be presented to this board to get sign off, because it makes it easier for you folks to have this discussion about it and then give your yay or nay about it to council, in which we've done before. They vote on it. Council then votes on it, and then it becomes part of our equipment.
Thank you, Deputy Chief. Just a couple more questions and clarifications. I believe council made their desire known that the military equipment list be vetted by this commission on an annual basis. So I'm not negating or contesting the fact that that may have been something that you would want to do of your own volition. And if you say that's the case, I accept that. But the council also wanted it vetted by its commission.
They wanted this meeting vetted by this commission, right? I'm going by the law, which says that council has to do this, right? And so so what I told you, what I mean is that every single piece of equipment that we buy, change, bring up, or present that's new, that's on the military equipment list, right?
Yes.
Council did say that they wanted the 841 list. They wanted it to come through this, which we did.
Yes.
But now every single time we get a new piece of equipment,
Yes.
we bring it through this board.
Very good. So then let me just come back to, so then a couple of things. Well, obviously, if the council hadn't appointed a commission, it would go directly to the commission. But the council, in its wisdom, decided that a reform and oversight commission would be a step forward for this community, and further gave certain directions as to, and it still does occasionally give directions as to things it wants this commission to review. And the annual possession and any updates to the possession of military grade equipment is something that the council would like us to review, and we could comment on, vote on, not vote on, but we are tasked with that. And just so that we commissioners can be sure we're doing our homework, then see, I was under the assumption that rereading the 481 report was not necessary. So I wasn't really feeling remiss in not having read the whole document again, because as you pointed out, it's the same document as a year ago, except for the addition of newly acquired information and updates on the use of certain military equipment.
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. Then please correct me.
So council directed that we bring the use of all of our equipment and everything that we have, right? The initial bill that needed to be approved by council, right? They said that needs to go to, as you correctly said, to the commission. We brought that to the commission, right? Over several meetings, over several things, we brought it to, and then out of that, you guys pulled out some of those things, the Bearcat, some of our other things, and we had a robust discussion about that equipment. You then wrote a cover letter that Ms. Parsons then read that went with all of that equipment, that possession of that equipment. Council then voted on that equipment and said, these are acquired items by the police department that they can have.
They
Done.
condone it, right?
Done.
Mhm.
The other part of the law says that every year the police department must present a report, which is different from the report that we just sent in 2021. Every year on the use of every single time we use any piece of that equipment, right? And our current reserves and everything that we have on that. That is that report. Completely different, right? Completely different. Although everything that's listed in that report or in the new report is on the same as the original report. But every single time we add, we bring it to the commission to do that. Our number of drones, our number of the number of rounds we use, the number of 40 millimeters, all that stuff. Anything that I change, we have to bring it to this commission.
So parts of the reports may be redundant, but that doesn't make them identical.
That's correct. Especially if we haven't used them.
Ms. Parson, can you turn Commissioner Miller's mic on, please?
Thank you. Okay. Well, sir, I think we're going to just have to agree, because for the life of me, I keep thinking that you and I are saying the same things. And were it not for just my wanting to master the details, I would actually have moved on 5 minutes ago, because it's not terribly germane to like the core issues of pros and cons of tear gas. But in summary, you presented what you possessed a year ago, consistent with state law. You've presented what you currently possess fairly recently, consistent with state law. It's called this report, this AB 481 report, and this report is very largely similar to the 481 report from last year, except for the acquiring of, say, those 2 additional drones, which you were good enough, or the department was good enough to come and educate us about specifically, and updating any recent use. Okay, good. All right, moving on. With regards to, I think it's important to segregate the issue on tear gas between its use and its possession. Okay, and I think it makes sense to maybe approach it from the standpoint of possession first, because if there's not a solid foundation for possessing it, then 17 things we're going to require ourselves to do as a department, and presumably manage to do under incredibly stressful, dire circumstances. Like, that becomes a discussion if we decide, or if the decision is made, if the department makes the decision that it continues to make sense to possess this this military grade gas. So with just starting on the issue of its possession, with that as our lens, and also, sir, with an eye toward a common refrain, and it's a common refrain from leaders of SMPD to the effect of, we are leaders, we are regional leaders of progressive policing. Okay, so with that as our lens, I would ask these questions. LAPD decided against possessing tear gas in its arsenal several years ago. I trust you're aware of that.
That's not true.
Okay, could you please correct me?
You're corrected.
Okay. LAPD has decided to forego possessing and using tear gas.
Again, that's not true. So again, as I said before earlier, we use tear gas, and as most departments use tear gas, as in barricaded suspects, these types of situations, right? right? And so we have to separate the particular incident on how people use them
Yes,
and what they do, because it's a safety issue, right?
of course.
Right, to get people to come out. So we use 99.9% of the time when we use tear gas, and we rarely use it. When we do use it, it's to extricate somebody from a house, from a building, someone who's armed, trying to get someone out when all things have failed, instead of rushing in and doing these particular items. That's different. LAPD has tear gas, and they do use it on those particular issues.
Okay, well then, recognizing, sir, that you're a law enforcement professional and I'm not, and recognizing, sir, that you are appropriately well compensated by our city for your services, and I am not, perhaps appropriately not, but recognizing those differences, could you help me out here a little bit?
Sure.
Okay, so, because I don't want to have to, pose piercing legally questions to kind of really get to the core truth.
Okay.
So could you articulate in layperson's terms, please, what are the differences between SMPD's approach to possessing and potential use of tear gas compared with the largest law enforcement entity in our region, LAPD?
They're the second largest entity in our region, one. And
Thank
so, just to correct you,
Thank
right,
you.
we got to be
Sheriffs?
right?
Sheriffs,
Department number
thank
one.
you, sir.
So just to be clear, right, most agencies possess tear gas. LAPD possesses tear gas. It's their use and how they use it, right? And so they may not use it in any type of unruly type of circumstances. So that way and because there's 10,000 LAPD officers, they don't have the means to give out 10,000 gas masks, right? Which is an expensive deal. And they choose to not possess it or use it in that particular, in those types of particular situations, because they have numbers. They can call up, at any point in time, there's 2,000 police officers working in the city of LA at any point in time. They have numbers on their side. The Santa Monica Police Department does not. Okay. And so again, LAPD, every other city that has a SWAT team uses tear gas in that particular way. And that's the vast majority of the deployments of tear gas.
Sir, would
So,
it be fair
if I may, just to be clear, I don't mean to interrupt, but
No.
to be clear, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I want to understand, I think what you're saying, for my own understanding, is that LAPD may possess tear gas, they may use tear gas, but they're not using it for crowd dispersal.
Correct. And most people don't use, right, in an unruly, unruly crowd or unlawful assembly type of issue.
But it
Correct.
still might be used in, say, if you had a hostage situation or something of
Correct.
that nature,
That's
that's
correct.
when they might deploy it.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
That's it.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Deputy Chief. So would you be comfortable with SMPD adopting the same limited use of tear gas as our large law enforcement partner to the east, south, and north of us?
Right. So again, right, we had this discussion many times before.
Sure, but the
And
law
so-
says have the discussion annually. So here we are, Deputy Chief.
Right, but not about tear gas, about our military equipment
Well,
and
it's
use of there.
it's an
But-
element,
But
sure.
I'm ready to
Well,
have.
hold on, one at a time, please. Remember, we're making a
Right.
record.
No,
at the-
absolutely.
Making a record at this point, which means a transcript at some point may be made, which means one at a time, because a court reporter, for lack of a better term, transcriber can't transcribe more than one person at a time. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Deputy Chief, would you be comfortable reforming SMPD's approach to the possession and use of tear gas such that it mirrored LAPD's approach?
I would not.
Okay, thank you. And sir, with regards to LAPD's policy, is it your understanding that the motivations behind LAPD deciding to jettison or largely jettison its use of tear gas, and LAPD is being fairly vocal on the point of their discontinuation vocal in the media, are you of the impression that their reasons for changing their policy and toward greater restriction of tear gas had nothing to do with human health consequences or the consequences of the public exposed to that gas, and it was purely an issue of the numerics you educated us on?
I don't know. I can't speak to that. I don't know. I'm just saying, from my standpoint where I sit, it's easier for them
Sure.
because of those things that I've listed. I have no idea the politics behind it, the reasonings behind it. I didn't sit in those rooms when they decided to do it, but that's the LAPD.
Thanks. Deputy Chief, is there anybody within the department that is aware of regional thinking on with regards to reforming use and possession of tear gas? So you're indicating you're not personally aware of any public safety, humanitarian-driven, health consequence-driven reasons, health of both the public and officers, by the way. You're saying you're not aware of that being part of LAPD's thinking. Is there anybody else in the department that tracks such things and brings such reform initiatives of our neighbors to the department for consideration?
I'm sure that we could possibly find somebody to contact other folks and who deal with those types of things, but no one that currently provides me any listing of what everyone else is doing. No.
Has the change in
If I
policy?
may, I don't mean to interrupt. I just want to make sure we're on topic. Commissioner Myers, the reason that you're asking about LAPD policy is because you're looking for what might influence SMPD policy and our recommendations and SMPD and their deliberations.
Precisely.
We're not focusing on LAPD to focus on LAPD. We're focusing on, wait 1 second. We're focusing on LAPD to see how it could influence SMPD, and you're looking to it as a good secondary source?
Correct,
Okay.
among other reasons, but absolutely yes.
Thank you.
To the reasons you
Proceed then.
to the reasons you identified. Sir, do you personally have any concerns about the health consequences on your officers or on the public? Officers, should they not be able to fasten a mask in an emergency or fashion it correctly, or the effect on members of the public? Do you personally, as a professional, have any concerns in that area?
While I wear a uniform, it doesn't matter what I think personally. So I can only speak professionally when I'm.
Fair enough, sir. Do you professionally, can you professionally identify, do you have any professional concerns with regards to the health and safety of officers when the gas is used or members of the public when the gas is used?
If I may, Commissioner Miller, sorry to interrupt again. Chief Jacob is here as a representative of SMPD, and therefore his personal opinion, I'm not sure he can appropriately give it, to be fair. And number two, I'm not sure it's particularly relevant to our agenda item. He can speak as a SMPD representative. I don't know if he can speak for himself.
Thank you, Chair.
So maybe rephrase.
And thank you, Chair, and thank you, Deputy Chief. Also, I can readily accept striking personal. Like that's fine. I stand corrected. I want to stick to your professional experience and views. That's fine with me. Chair, a part of the reason for this inquiry is that I think when it comes to possessing.
Well, let's do this first. Are you done asking Chief Jacob questions?
I'm not.
Okay. Why don't we finish that first and we can finish questions that other people might have, and then we can go into a general discussion if you like.
Fair enough.
Also, does that work?
It does.
Thank you.
Let's move. I'm going to move off of issues of its possession, possibly for good, but certainly at least for the moment, and move on to questions of its use. Obviously, we empower police officers to use lethal force. As well we should. Okay, so I'm not a denialist as to the rough and tumble world out there and the need for officers to be well equipped and to win. Because in the spur of the moment, I always want the police to win. If there needs to be a revisit of what occurred, that can happen later. All right. So So with regards to the possession, and I guess, and the 17 things we have to do before we deploy tear gas, I guess my first question is, officers are required to Mirandize arrestees, but on occasions, due to human error or the rough and tumble of police work, things that are required don't necessarily occur. So with regards to the 17 things that are required to occur prior to the deployment of noxious gas, do we not face considerable risk of, in the rough and tumble, some of those 17 things don't happen to happen or are forgone?
Right. So just to clarify, officers are not required to read Miranda to every arrestee.
Let's not get into Miranda.
But I'm not, I'm just trying to, but I'm just saying, like, these
I
things are not,
understand. Let's
these
not-
things are not required. But what I'm saying is that, right, we take considerable liability in everything that we do on a daily basis, right? That's kind of what we do, right? And if one of my lieutenants is out in front of a crowd, I'm going to be asking, I am required, because I'm personally liable now, to ask those questions. Have all these things been done? Right? And if they have not, and then when these questions are presented to the chief has to ask, are all these things done? Have all these things been transpired? And if they have not, then we have to go back and make sure that they're completed. And so, and again, that's in our policy, and that's in compliance with state law on how they do it. So, you know, there's tremendous liability in everything that we do when we, you know, in everything that we do, you know, in the profession of law enforcement. So it's something that we're used to dealing with and something that we're used to having. And so, yes, we're prepared.
Thank you, Deputy Chief. Is the process you just described always followed?
Again, the law just came out. And so in my 20 years, we've deployed gas once. And so into an unruly crowd once. And so the law came after that time. And so as I said before, we haven't had that opportunity. But do we train that way? Absolutely.
Understood.
Everything we do, we train that way.
Understood, Deputy Chief. Thank you. With regards to the rules that were prevailing at the time of May 31st, were all of those rules followed in that incident?
So I don't think that's on the agenda.
Well, sir, I'm gonna, if you'll give me just a little leeway, I'm gonna respectfully disagree with you in that.
Okay.
Well, let me just ask you this, Chair.
Maybe I could explain why it
Sure.
kind of
Sure.
violates the agenda. Because our agenda is limited to a discussion around this report. This report does not reference that, I don't believe. And therefore, also this report is subsequent and looking forward as to their current supply. What's the word I'm looking for, Chief? Inventory. Thank you.
Inventory.
Their current inventory, it's not, I don't believe it's there. So I don't want to get into that.
Thanks. Chair, if I may. So I think it comes down to our responsibility here as commissioners, and I'm definitely looking to take my cues from you to the extent that I can be comfortable in doing so. So I'm trying to go your way.
Thank you.
I'm troubled by that issue, though, of she who fails to examine history is condemned to repeat it. So I think that's what brings it into relevance. We have a military equipment list
maybe
with an item that was recently used to great controversy.
So maybe then the remedy is to bring it up, properly agendize it, bring it up in a subsequent meeting, but not tonight. So
Well,
I'm sorry, I just can't let the meeting, because because I believe that goes beyond what the agenda states. I can't let us go into that.
I respectfully disagree, but I want to
Okay.
support. I want to support my chair. So I'm gonna proceed as you indicate. Sir, with regards to so the 17 requirements are really important to me because I want to, as a commissioner, you know, like, and as a resident, I want to take comfort in that. And as a resident, I want to take comfort in it. As a commissioner, I want to lean on it as a means of potentially voting to support my police department continuing to possess tear gas. And when in the discussion, points are raised by highly respect-worthy and senior members of the Santa Monica Police Department that just don't seem to comport with things that actually occurred, then it draws me back to questioning the wisdom of bestowing the authority to possess and use tear gas, because it does ultimately come down to its.
So, Commissioner Miller?
1 second, Chair.
Is
The
there a
possession
question?
has to do with possessing, but the use has to do with judgment.
I can't, I just want to clarify. Are you in discussion? Is there a question for Chief Jacob?
Yeah, there's a question.
Okay, just out of curiosity, because.
5 to 10 minutes. Was that your question?
5.
Right.
5.
So, I want to explore just a tad further your representation that there have been no complaints relative to SMPD's use of tear gas, because I am being asked to vote to bestow on you, the chief, and other seniors possession and ability to use in the future this tear gas. So, sir, I want to ask again, are you aware of any complaints regarding SMPD's use of the tear gas in the last handful of years?
So,
If we're going to put him on the spot, let's give a number. How many years?
4.
so again, 841 started 2022. That's
not my question, sir.
okay. But
And it wasn't your statement was you're not aware of any complaints being made with regard to SMPD's use of tear gas. And I need to explore that because it would appear to conflict with reality.
You're done. I can talk now.
Yes, sir.
Hold on,
Okay.
everyone. Let's
No,
be respectful.
I'm not being respectful. I just want to make sure that I can.
No,
answer your
I-
talk,
I-
'cause you
I
interrupted
appreciate
me
it.
again.
I appreciate
No,
it.
hold on. So I appreciate what's occurring here. It's part of the democratic process, but let's do our best to maintain decorum. Maybe let's just do our best. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So again,
So
the,
sorry.
the bill, right, is only complaints for the last year. That's what the bill states, right? It doesn't say we have to go back 10 years, 100 years, 5 years, 4 years. We're only talking about this report, which is for last year. Then there was no complaints for any use of tear gas because we had none for the prior year.
Thank you. And I want to extend the same courtesy. Are you done?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Sir, my question wasn't what the report contains. My question to you as the second most senior member of my police department is, are you aware of community-based complaints about the department's use of tear gas? And I understood your answer to be no, and not that, well, none since AB such and such passed 12 months ago. I understood your answer to be no, but please feel free to offer a different answer if that's your truth.
Again, we're here talking about 841 for the prior year. Now, if your question is outside the agenda item that we're talking about for the past 4 years or back to May 31st, you're asking a redundant question. You know that there was complaints about it from May 31st, so which were listed in the OIR report.
I don't want to cut off the chair, but I do want to, the deputy chief, but I do want to proceed. Okay. Sir,
Commissioner Miller, can this be the last question, please?
I think it can be the last of 3.
You know,
Well,
hold
let me
on.
just ask this question and see where we're at.
Hold on, everyone. Commissioner Miller, I'm sorry you've been afforded a lot of time. I'm gonna have to insist that this be the last question.
I'll try going along with that, Chair. Do keep in mind that I am an appointed commissioner and I have waited a year for this discussion, right? I made a good faith effort to discuss this a year ago. It was, okay, so I'm going to ask for a little latitude.
And and I appreciate that, Commissioner Miller. You've had total, I would say 20 to 30 minutes of questioning just to yourself. I've given you a lot of deference, a lot of leeway in this item, and I'm happy to do it because it's your item. But there may be other commissioners that have questions, and we also have other items. So I'll tell you what, you have 3. I want this to be the last one. Let's go to 2, and then please wrap up.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you, Chair. I appreciate you as well, Deputy Chief. Well, it's important to me if I'm going to vote to authorize this department to possess these items, it's important to me to have confidence in our leaders, to have respect for our leaders, and I do respect you, to respect the knowledge of our leaders, and I've attended classes that you've taught, sir. So clearly, I'm interested in learning, and I do respect you. But I also need to know that we're kind of viewing certain community conditions similarly, and I personally emailed the chief the day of the tear gas incident. I CC'd the mayor and the mayor pro tem. School kids gathered on the
Commissioner
plaza,
Miller,
and they each
Commissioner
delivered
Miller,
letters.
Commissioner Miller.
So, Mike, I'll end with this question.
Okay.
I'll turn it into a question. I think you said I can have one more. Yes.
I did, but
Yeah.
as I
Question is,
said,
are you aware?
Commissioner Miller, please do not interrupt me. Thank you. I want you to ask a question, but it sounds like you might be going towards something that we've already decided is off agenda. So I just want to make sure that that's not where you're going.
Good point.
With
Chair.
that said, please proceed.
Good point, Chair. Appreciate it.
you.
Appreciate the guidance. Are you aware that there have been complaints that have taken various forms, some rather formal, some informal, have been made by community members with regards to the use of tear gas by SMPD?
On May 31st, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Miller. I
Thank you,
appreciate
Chair.
it.
Thank you, Chair.
Is there any other questions for Chief Jacob? Commissioner Scott. Thank you, Chief Jacob. Of course.
Yes, thank you for being patient and informative at the same time. So I'm just going to combine all of my questions together. With respect to the flashbang, chemical weapons, any of the chemical agent delivery devices, I noticed throughout the report, they had training, post-approved training on legal and practical application, including but not limited to crowd management, intervention, and control. Have you discussed what is the frequency of that training again, especially as we rotate and have new officers in? Because I think that's probably a lot of the concern too.
Well, so we actually have a mobile field force team and a cadre. And so normal officers can't deploy gas. Normal officers can't deploy any of those munitions. Only specially trained officers on our mobile field force cadre have that ability to do so, and our SWAT team members.
Thank you. And what was the number on the mobile force? I think you gave it to us before.
What's
The number of officers that are on there.
couldn't tell you currently at this time. 30.
And those are the ones that have all the specialized training.
That's
They have that
correct.
certain skill
So-
set. Thank you.
Sorry to interrupt. For the record, that was Lieutenant Cody Green. Thank you. That's it? Okay. Is there any other questions out there? All right. Having said that, thank you, Chief Jacob. Is there any discussion? Commissioner Miller.
Yes. I wish very much that I could endorse this report. I said the same thing last year. I studied up diligently. With great reservation, came to be on board with the Bearcat, and without much reservation, came to be on board with the drones and other equipment that many people who view themselves as reformers and progressives disapprove of, but I don't. I approve of them. I need to take a moment to say something a tad personal. My paternal grandfather died in the European theater as a result of inhalation of military-grade gas. As a consequence, my father didn't know his father, and I grew up with a father who essentially didn't have a father. So I want to disclose this, not so much because it's an emotional tearjerker, although maybe, but more just to own up to my own bias, because we need to be aware of our own biases. We've all got them, and I'm no exception. My dad also was a member of, thank you, the largest law enforcement agency in Los Angeles County for several years. He was a deputy sheriff. And my very favorite uncle rose, after many years of service in the Culver City Police Department, rose to be a police chief in Orange County. I saw the effects of my police department's use of tear gas on non-violent demonstrators. And that's another bias. So I've got all of these biases going on, and here's my last bias. Anytime, I alluded to this earlier, Chair, Vice Chair, Commissioners, anytime SMPD is in a fight, I want them to win. Every time. Winning is not only prevailing on the street. Winning is prevailing in a sense of equitable, socially justice oriented, community values oriented policing. So when our police need to engage in violent acts against members of my community, and they do, they not just that they do, they need to. I want them to win. When SMPD or other law enforcement agencies unleash military-grade gas, I don't think they win, even if they prevail. And I want my police department to win all the time. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other comments?
Questions. Just a question to you. I mean, is,
To me? Or
yeah,
to Chief Jacob?
I'm sorry, I'm just confused.
Okay.
Is
Chief
this,
Jacob?
is this report that we have in front of us, the ABA dated September 2023, was this presented to us before tonight?
Yes, it was.
Okay, and have we had discussion on this report before tonight?
Why don't we define presented? That might be helpful.
Well, presented as it was given, it was
Published.
published. It was published on our website and
Oh,
then
okay.
sent individually to you,
Okay.
as the law requires us to do.
Okay. And I would imagine at some point, it us agendize and we should have discussion on it. And then ultimately, I would imagine we vote on a report, approve this report. We write a report approving this report for council.
We can do as we please.
I mean, is that I'm just trying to get some kind of.
That part is not required by law. The
Oh,
law
okay.
says we have to publish a report. It doesn't say it has to be approved or not, because the equipment has already been approved,
That's correct.
right? And so it requires no vote on your part.
Oh, okay.
We just have to present that to everyone.
Got it.
To do.
If I may,
Yes.
our practice in the past is because it was a recent passage of a law and a lot of new information was introduced to us, that we took this entirely new construct, wrote a report ourselves based on the new construct, and submitted to council. This, as I said, is redundant to that report, but not identical.
Correct.
Because it has updates for an entirely new year that couldn't have been covered because it had not yet occurred. And that's similar that's basically what we're looking at. Would you agree with that, Chief?
Absolutely,
Jacob?
sir. And it includes our usage on those particular items that we used.
Correct.
So if we do a report, we're not obligated to do a report. When I say a report, I mean the commission report. We would only be, are we confined to only doing the report for the updated portions of the report? Or would we just jump into the whole report?
Again, you're not required to do anything.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
anything that's new that's added to it, we've presented that to you prior, and you have voted on it and then sent those items to council to be included already on the report. So again, the law only requires that we have a well-publicized meeting about this, that the police department have a well-publicized meeting. I
Okay,
said, and I'm not trying to be like funny, but I said, we could have done this at our police department. But this is the correct forum because of council's instructions and because of other things, that we bring that meeting here to be heard by the commissioners and to be held by the public,
okay.
period. But we're not required to do that, but that's what we chose.
And
to do.
is tonight's meeting that meeting?
Yes, because it's been pushed back. It was supposed to be in October and it's been pushed back till now.
Got it. Thanks. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Is there any motions? Okay,
Doesn't say we're
seeing
gonna
that,
make a motion, it just says we're discussing.
I'm sorry.
The agenda doesn't say we're making a motion on anything, it just says discussion.
We discussed it.
Thank you. I'm just asking if there's any motions. I can't rule on the motions till I know what the motion is. But thank you. Yes, Commissioner Miller.
Yes, I'll offer a motion. I move that the commission approve or indicate its approval of the entirety of this year's AB 481 report from SMPD, with the single exception of the ongoing possession of tear gas, and that the department and that we request the department to phase out its possession and use of tear gas within 1 year.
Is there a second for that?
I'll make a substitute motion.
Okay.
That we approve the report as written and presented in its entirety from the Santa Monica Police Department.
I don't think you can make a substitute motion until there's a second, to be fair. And we can do, is there a second to Commissioner Miller's motion? Can you restate the motion, Commissioner Miller?
Yes, that this commission puts itself on record as approving the entirety of SMPD's AB 481 report for this year, with the single exception of the ongoing possession of tear gas, and that we call upon the police department to phase out its possession of tear gas within a year.
Is there a second for that? Let's do this. Is there a second? There's no, okay. What is your clarifying question?
I wanted to go back to Ms. Parsons. For that language regarding tear gas, did we mention a phase out period? No, right? What exactly was that language again?
The language was that it is the commission's view that munitions, tear gas, odorous, be used sparingly and with great caution. Reasoning behind this recommendation is the unknown health effects of these munitions, as well as the impact they have on the community at large. Second, there's more. It is also the belief of this commission that all uses of force should only be used when all peaceful alternatives have been exhausted in accordance with penal codes. Do you want me to read all the penal codes again?
Okay, thank you.
So, Commissioner Miller, if I may, maybe a different worded motion might be helpful, something along the lines of approve the report in its entirety, but encourage SMPD to search for a less violent method of control than tear gas.
If you would care to be the maker of that motion, I will second it.
I'll make
It's
that
not my
motion.
Second.
Can you repeat the motion?
The motion is approve the report its entirety and encourage SMPD to continue to search for a less violent tool of control. No, I'm not going to say dangerous. Continue to encourage SMPD to search for a less violent method of control than tear gas, other than tear gas. Oh, Commissioner Stroud?
Just gonna say, I think whether SMPD phases out tear gas or whether there's another alternative, I think that's a good discussion for the use of force committee to actually tackle on. I don't know if we have the expertise. I don't know. Banning tear gas in Santa Monica sounds great. I don't know what are alternatives. I'm not educated on the issue at all. So I think that could be something where the committee, the ad hoc could come and discuss and get feedback from the Santa Monica PD, gets feedback on what are some alternatives. And that would allow us to have a better understanding and kind of a better structure for policy to recommend later on.
Commissioner Miller?
I think that wasn't in the form, I think that was discussion, right? Because it wasn't. So I would just offer discussion back by saying it's been a year, and I think that without something that, and I cautioned the commission a year ago on this very point, and we were kind of jovial about it at the time, kind of very, but I cautioned this commission a year ago that unlikely anything would happen if that was the language we passed. We're a year later, and we're not getting alternative points of view. We're not getting alternatives presented to us. So I think I'll just close with this. I think the spirit of what the commissioner is suggesting is good, and I think we can go ahead and pass the motion that was made by the chair and seconded, which approves the report and calls on SMPD to take an action, a future action. Concurrent with that, what Commissioner Stroud is suggesting should absolutely occur, and it should be a collaborative process. I would have hoped that's what would have happened during the last 12 months.
So I like Commissioner Stroud's idea. I think it's worth taking some action. I don't see any harm, and I don't think it speaks negatively about SMPD. I don't think it reflects poorly on SMPD to simply say, if there's a less violent method of of control, look for it. Because I think we'd all like to see I got you. I think we'd all like to see the least violent method used, if possible. So I don't think it's not calling on SMPD to not use tear gas if that is the least violent method. It's not calling on them to get rid of it. It's just saying, hey, look for it. And if it's out there, great. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that's fair to say look for it. I'm sorry? Commissioner Ramon, did you? Well, so I'm going to do this because Commissioner Pelazzola's hand was up. I noticed you first. Was your hand up before his, Commissioner Ramon? Okay, so Commissioner Pelazzola, then Commissioner
I want to
Ramon.
make a substitute motion
Okay.
that we endorse the report as presented by the Santa Monica Police Department without any changes.
Okay. Is there a second for that?
I'll second that.
Okay. So with that, we'll go to a vote.
Are you going to vote on the first motion that was seconded or the second motion?
Now, I think there's been a substitute motion,
Okay.
but I'll be voting nay. Oh, do we have any discussion on that? I'm saying I'm going to be voting nay, just because I think it's worth saying, look for a less violent method if it exists. I see no harm in that. And I think approving the report in its entirety with just a request to say, hey, if there's something less violent, please look for it, is fine. Yes, Commissioner Pelazzola.
Yes, I have something to say on that. It
Yes.
sounds like the Santa Monica PD one is the only entity here that has any expertise in this whatsoever. They made it very clear in the report and the testimony by Chief Jacobs that they really have a pretty good handle on this. And for us to think that we can come in and legislate how they go about doing things, it just seems pretty ridiculous. They've given us a good report. I don't think any commissioner has, with the maybe exception of one, that has a big problem with the information that was presented in this report. Why beat this thing as a dead horse?
I can explain that because we're not questioning SMPD's judgment at this point. We're not denying their expertise. Actually, we're endorsing their expertise. We're endorsing it by saying, you guys are the ones who know, you guys are the ones who have the expertise. With your expertise, please, if you can, go look and see if there's something else out there. That's an endorsement of their expertise. It's not a reflection of anything else. And it's not even a recommendation to stop using something. It's saying, go see if there's something better.
Merely a play on words.
I don't think it is at all, but that's fine. Is there any other discussion?
I have a discussion.
Vice Chair Centeno.
My discussion is, I seconded this motion. My only trouble with your recommendation or motion was I don't like the word violence. I think that perhaps the words encourage the department to find or look for an alternative method for dispersion of violent behavior by a crowd, or an alternative. What did I say? Alternative and less lethal, but that's, yeah,
It's violent.
something other than violent.
Okay, so you want something other than violent.
Yeah.
What if we changed it to alternative?
I'm okay with that.
Okay, and if I agreed to have a friendly amendment to change it to alternative, would you withdraw your second to Pelazzola's motion so we could then do a friendly amendment to my motion?
Only if he has to agree to the friendly amendment because he made the motion.
No, if you withdraw your second, then there's no substitute motion.
Okay, I'm lost.
So what we're at now is Commissioner Pelazzola's motion.
Right,
He made it, you seconded.
okay.
You withdraw your
I will withdraw
second.
my second.
Okay. Now, here's what I have to do. Changing the word from violent to alternative. Can you read the language, Ms. Parson?
Motion made by the chair was to approve the report in its entirety and to continue to encourage SMPD to search for a less violent method of control than tear gas.
Okay, so if we change that to alternative, that's friendly to the maker of the motion. Is that friendly to the seconder?
May I make a suggestion, Chair? Could we go with more benign?
Does that work?
Well,
Let's
of
just
course
make
it's semantics. That's
let's
what
ju-
we're doing.
Let's just make it alternative. Is that friendly to you?
Could it be read again, please? Could just that phrase be read?
Can you please read it, Ms. Parson?
Yes.
Can you read it with the word alternative?
Yep. It would be a motion to approve the report in its entirety and to continue to encourage SMPD to search for an alternative method of control than tear gas.
It's not my motion, but I'm happy to second it and accept the friendly.
So it's friendly to the seconder?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything else? All right, let's go to a vote. Oh, Commissioner Ramon, I am sorry. I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
That's used in most parts of the world as tear gas, right? This is for combative suspects, for riot control and alleviating hostage situations. There is the world, there is Santa Monica. There is the world and there's Santa Monica. So my question would be, since we are recommending that Santa Monica Police go out there and find something less lethal, would any other law enforcement in the entire world have done that already? Why is the CS gas the most popular?
I don't know, but if I may.
Yep.
I mean, I'm sorry, if I may, but I think that's why, and what I think the Use of Force Committee will take up that question on their own, subsequent to this meeting. But I think we can pass this motion. I think saying just, hey, go look and see if it exists. I don't think there's anything, it's not saying don't use it, it's saying go see if there's something else. There's not. What's the harm?
No, there is no harm. I'm
Okay.
just, a little, like, we used it once. And of course, as you said, biases and experiences are different, right?
Mhm.
So pretty much what I wanted to say. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Mon. Commissioner Scott.
So real quick then, I'm wondering if this might also be another opportunity for our Inspector General to check with the various police agencies around the country, nay, I say world, and see what they know as well?
I think that might be good for the Use of Force Committee, but we're getting off topic here. Is there anything else? All right, let's have a vote.
All right, we are voting on the motion to approve the report in its entirety and to continue to encourage SMPD to search for an alternative method of control than tear gas. Commissioner Centeno? Hello?
Who did you ask for?
Commissioner Centeno?
Oh, yes.
Commissioner Miller?
Yes.
Commissioner Mohanty is absent. Commissioner Stead-Stroud?
Yes.
Commissioner Devermont?
Yes.
Commissioner McLaughlin-Bisseri is no longer with us. Commissioner Harrington is
I'm
absent.
here.
Oh, you're back? I can't see you.
Hi. Yeah.
Sorry, hon.
Yes.
So sorry. You're in my blind spot. Commissioner Harrington is absent. Commissioner Whittemore is absent. Commissioner Palazzolo?
Yes.
Commissioner Cruz?
Yes.
Commissioner Ramon?
Yes.
Commissioner Scott?
Yes.
Passes unanimously. Glad we got through this, guys. Next item.
Is it my understanding that you want to move to 1C and do 1B at the end?
I don't think it matters at this point.
All right,
Let's
item
just get to it.
1B, discussion regarding efforts to prevent commission from briefing council on RIPA data. There are no public commenters.
Commissioner Scott, this is your item.
Thank you, and thank everyone for remaining to hear the rest of the agenda items. Former mayor and former police officer Nat Travis has a mantra: truth, plus transparency equals trust. And what we've been trying to do is to help our police department regain the trust that was lost in 2020. Now, we've held several RIPA hearings, pretextual stop hearings. We've heard a number of community members and organizations speak on this as well, in addition to having commissioners vote in 2 different meetings recommending that we send our recommendations to be agendized on City Council. And yet, in addition to Chair Devermont as well, stating that he wanted to present that report once it's agendized on City Council. And yet we have hit another blocker, meaning I have, under very reliable sources, been informed that our Police Officers Association is trying to block this item from being agendized on City Council, which again, of course, this RIPA report is not flattering, but as I always say, it's an opportunity to improve. It's an opportunity to look at the different data points and bring understanding and create change around these different issues that primarily affect our Black and Brown community. In the report itself, it says that our Black community makes up 4.3% of Santa Monica's population, yet the data demonstrates that 15.4% of the total number of stops is attributed to our Black community. And similar data for our Latinx community. This is troubling. And what's more troubling is not being able to be fully transparent. When you agendize it for city council, that is an opportunity for both city council and for community members, for city residents to really see what's happening and also be able to offer their thoughts and work collectively together. With respect to what's happening, several city council members, dare I say several, I'll say a few city council members have been approached regarding potential situations that may occur if they agendize this. And when I say that, meaning these city council members, if they choose to agendize it, they face possibilities in this upcoming election of losing support. Or if they choose to, or whomever they're choosing to support may also lose that support. And, you know, we all know that elections is really around money and how you can pay to get all of your campaign materials out there. But it's troubling, again, if we're not being fully transparent about what this RIPA report says. It also demonstrates a form of, dare I say, cover up, which we don't need to do. If we just present the facts, have it agendized, give city council an opportunity to look at the data, speak to the police department, then we can move on and everyone can work collectively to create change. But if it's blocked, how will we ever be given the opportunity to reimagine public safety? I yield my time.
Thank you, Commissioner Scott. That was very blunt, very direct, and I very much appreciate that. I want to be careful. I too have heard similar things. I too have heard that there were efforts to prevent us from reporting to council and from having the discussion agendized or our recommendations agendized, the report agendized. I had heard that as well. I had heard that there were, with regards to the, I had heard that there might be, with regards to the upcoming electoral process, that there might be repercussions as well. I wish I was as blunt as you and I had that courage. I'm not sure I do. I'm not sure I do. I do think it's unfortunate. I think that this commission has a duty to report to council. We've reported to council on nearly every report we've passed. I'll get to you in a minute, Commissioner Palazzolo. I see you. We've nearly every report we've passed. We've reported to council on it in person, had to put on the agenda, sometimes consolidating items. But that's politics, I guess. And You know, you use the word cover up. It's a bold word. Maybe it fits, maybe it doesn't, maybe it does. But you know, we're the oversight commission, and our job is to provide oversight and report to council. And if that is being circumvented, that's a problem. Commissioner Pelizzolo.
It's my recollection that in fact, Chair Devermont did present our findings under the RIPA report to the city council some time ago.
No,
We're on the agenda. I watched you on YouTube, no?
no, never. I'm not sure what you're referring to.
I
No.
thought you had
Absolutely not.
presented this, no?
No.
Okay.
Commissioner Miller.
Thank you, Chair Devermont. I'll be brief. I agree with almost everything that Commissioner Scott said. And the area of difference is because I also agree with Chair Devermont's last comment of that's politics. So frankly, I look at the Santa Monica Police Officers Association with just admiration and envy for being an effective organization that has certain beliefs and is willing to do the hard work, take the chances, and compete in the political arena. Where reform is falling behind in our city, I think we should look more to ourselves, more to our committee's activities, more toward opportunities that we in the past have let pass, but in the future, I'm hopeful we will seize upon to engage the community in these issues. And when we do, with this Oversight and Reform Commission will come to have more pull with our appointing authority than the Police Officers Association. We need to play our politics better. Thank you.
Well, Commissioner Rahman. Hold on, let's do this. Who wants to speak? Commissioner Rahman.
Let it go first.
Well, I got you. I got you, Commissioner Rahman, Commissioner Pelizzolo, Commissioner Centeno. Is there anyone else? I'm sorry? Commissioner Scott. So Rahman, Pelizzolo, Centeno, Scott. Thank you.
So, I mean, when you say regain trust, this is my observation, this is my experience with our commission. We haven't fully reached out to the community of Santa Monica. We haven't reached out to the neighborhood groups. I sit on one, so I know. We haven't really engaged one, and I don't know to use the word regain trust, because I don't know if everyone, since I don't know everyone in Santa Monica, did it seem to this commission and the 4 or 5 community members, trusted community members, was the trust lost completely, that we just don't believe in our Santa Monica PD? And my last question would be the RIPA data. The RIPA data is based on California's RIPA data, correct? We have SMPD too. Okay. In comparison for the RIPA data for SMPD versus any other city in California, what do we rank? If that can be answered, I understand, but that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Commissioner Pelizzolo.
Well, I do remember when we were having discussions after the report was provided to us by the Santa Monica Police Department, a motion was made that sort of upset me. As a matter of fact, I recall making the statement, do you really think that the SMPD is cooking the books? And that's when that motion was to have our IG audit the SMPD, both on the data they provided and their methods of acquiring that. To my knowledge, we have not received anything back from the IG on that. So I'm wondering why we're dealing with this prior to receiving whatever data that was supposed to provide.
I don't want to speak for Commissioner Scott. This is her motion, but what I think this is really about is not necessarily about the report itself or even the report itself or even the data. And Commissioner Scott can correct me. I think what thesis ultimately is that there is an entity out there that is circumventing the commission's authority, or she believes is circumventing the commission's authority and trying to prevent us from doing our duty. And I think that's it. But am I wrong, Commissioner Scott?
No, you're correct.
Okay. So next is, oh, go ahead.
You know, what we do in submitting any reports, et cetera, is up to us. But I don't think that we have any right whatsoever to try to dictate to any member of this community or organization in this community who they can speak to and lobby, et cetera. That's part of the democratic process. And for us to try to jump on over that makes us look very, very small.
Okay. Well, no, I got to go in order. So I believe Vice Chair Centeno was.
When I was made aware of this item being placed on the agenda and the voiced allegations of perhaps impropriety, perhaps by a body of an organization in attempting to influence or intimidate perhaps council members. I kind of thought to myself, well, wait, these allegations are just that, allegations. I haven't seen any statement of, so I don't know that that's actually a statement of fact that is in concrete. Now, perhaps it is true. Perhaps it's not. But even if it's true, even if the Police Officers Association has voiced concerns about RIPA to city council members, that is within their purview as a labor organization in relations to three things: salary, benefits, and working conditions, and how it could potentially relate to disciplinary action if policies were changed to impact their body of the labor force. And that's well within their purview to be able to do that. I think as a commission, we were charged to look at procedure or policy or tone. And in this case, it was the RIPA data. We voiced our concerns, we made a vote, we made a recommendation, and we pushed it forward. We've done that a couple times. Whether the chief of police or the council chooses to act on it or not act on it, that's not our call, that's their call. And so I think we have done our due diligence quite fully by dialoguing, arguing positions and then ultimately voting on it. And so I think that's we're perhaps the tail wagging the dog or jumping out of our lane as a commission. I don't know that that's within our purview, and that's my voice.
I'll go to Commissioner Scott, then Commissioner Stroud. I would point out that it's also our duty to report to council. Commissioner Scott. Oh, Commissioner Stroud, then Commissioner Scott, please.
I just want to, based on these allegations, I just want to make it very clear. It doesn't sound, and I'm not a lawyer, but nothing illegal is being done. There's absolutely nothing illegal. The POA or any other member can can make recommendations, can lobby or advocate their position, and every council decision has political options. So I just want to make it very, very clear, there is absolutely nothing illegal. And I think, and Commissioner, I think the word cover up is a little, I wouldn't say, I think it's a pretty far step. I wouldn't say cover up. I think it's the normal course of politics. So I just want to make it very, very clear. Nothing, it doesn't seem like anything's illegal. I'm not a lawyer. But I do think if there is an entity out there that is lobbying the council, it is also our job as commissioners. We pass this if we were in support to lobby the council as well and say, hey, this is, we would like them to hear. We would like them to discuss this issue. So we can effectively, I wouldn't say lobby, but we can voice our support for them to hear this, just as other entities are voicing their support on this issue.
Commissioner Scott.
And thank you for that, Commissioner Stedstrout. So I wanted to, let me see. First and foremost, this was to bring awareness to an issue that may be happening. I'll say it that way loosely, politicking. And we know we are going into our election cycle, so there is a lot of lobbying. To your point, it is not illegal to do that. But what I wanted to do was to be transparent in saying that a few of us know this is happening, and we wanted to bring it to everyone's attention, as much people as we could, so that this is freedom of speech. We all have the opportunity to lobby city council as well. What is our job but to, like you said, oversight, right? We are trying to do our due diligence in showing this report, showing our recommendations, and then let city council decide. But if they are fearful due to various lobbying efforts, then where do we stand? So I want to go back. With respect to not having all of the neighborhood associations, again, Commissioner Cruz and I are continuing our community engagement listening sessions this year. So we will be listening to the remainder of the neighborhood associations. That is one of the things that we are dedicated to doing. I think we had mentioned before that there have been issues with lining up and ensuring that the various organizations are available when we hold our meetings. But that is something that we are committed to doing, is making sure that we hear from all of the organizations, all of the associations. So that is still in progress. That's still on our agenda. With respect to Commissioner Palazzolo, with respect to, I'll just say it's not my intention of saying we're jumping over the data, or we're just asking, we're simply asking that the data be agendized and that city council has an opportunity to review it for themselves. And we know them, they will make their own decisions, whether we like what they decide or not. But let's just give them the opportunity to do so. With respect to salary, benefits, working conditions, I understand that from the Police Officers Association. That is a great concern in any industry. So I understand that. And again, I think what also happens is there's this thought behind our oversight commission having more power than we actually do, right? And that it's amazing to me where folks will pull me aside. You people, first of all, you people is not okay. That's the othering. But the point is, we are trying to listen to everyone, make assessments based on data, based on reports, decision-making process based on data, and also looking future forward. So we present our information and then we ask city council to do the same thing. They have the opportunity to conduct listening sessions and hearings on this item. And again, ask for SMPD to provide their insight, their feedback, even call upon our inspector general. But the whole point is we just always need to be mindful of everything that's at play. So that's all. I wanted to just bring it to our attention that we are having a bit of a blocker, a bit of a hindrance in having this RIPA data, this RIPA recommendation that we made being agendized. That is all I'm saying. And to your point, totally understand with respect to POA and, you know, everything that is at play. It is not our intention to ever, I don't want to say ever, but it is not our intention to impact anyone's salary, benefits, working conditions. That is not our impact because at the end of the day, we all need public safety. We do. We just do in life in general. So that, you know, so that is always first and foremost important.
So we have the chair of the Police Officer Association. I'm going to call him up. I would like to say the following, though. The POA is an advocacy group. It is. They're a union like any other union. Their job is not to do what's right. Their job isn't to do what's wrong. Their job is to do what's best for their members. That is their jobs. They have a fiduciary duty to act in the best interest of their members, good, bad, or indifferent. They are active players in the political process like any other union. Lieutenant Green can answer whether there's any truth to any of this at some point. I will say, though, having said that, that is their duty, but often methods can be distasteful. I'd like to think that there's no effort to circumvent the commission or prevent us from addressing council and the public with our findings. I'll ask Lieutenant Green eventually if he has any objection to us reporting in person to council regarding our RIPA findings. But I think the POA should have an opportunity to address what is being said here in the interest of transparency. So welcome, Lieutenant Green.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I know, obviously, I didn't put in a chit today, but hearing the item, I felt compelled to speak. So, first of all, I have a lot of respect for Commissioner Scott, and you know, you've always been nothing but nice to me and professional. But I'll be honest, I'm wholly shocked at your allegations based completely on rumors. I'm taken aback that you would come to a public forum and make such allegations without foundation. And I'll tell you right now, to you now and in the future, that there was absolutely no truth at all to any of the statements made about conversations with council members by myself, especially related to those of insinuation of threats at all. I'll tell you that's absolutely false. Now, on the issue of doing it not transparently, I will remind you that I came here on the November 7th meeting and I made a statement to this commission about these items not being agendized correctly. I wholeheartedly support the commission's ability to make whatever recommendations that they find appropriate. But you need to do so in the confines of the law. And in fact, on the 7th, before we got to the commission meeting, there was some back and forth between myself and the city attorney and Lisa Parsons and the chair about proper agendizing the item. And I brought it to the attention, you know, with the idea of, hey, let's get this done correctly. Right. That was not the advice that I gave, that like we should not move forward with this, was ignored. I then came to this commission that you were at and I expressed that. So the idea that this was taken part without transparency is exactly the opposite of that. Right. The commission can take whatever position that they feel is appropriate, but you do have to comply with the law. You do have to comply with the Brown Act. The items were then brought up again at a subsequent special meeting. Again, I was in back and forth with the commissioner, or excuse the chair of the commission about proper agendizing of the item. Again, it was not done. There was a reason there was a second vote taken. I would guess that was because it wasn't done correctly the first time. I still hold the position, the POA still holds the position that the notification and proper agendizing the item has not been completed. Now, whatever position this commission ends up taking, they have a right to do that. Now, on the secondary part of it is the negotiated settlement that the city has entered into with the POA regarding working conditions, that if the vote that was taken were to carry, that we would have some rights about prior to the item going to the council. I wholly recognize that the commission can make the recommendation, whatever they feel fit, and that council has the right to hear that recommendation and make their own decision. So I am taken aback that a rumor would be brought up on the dais, especially when there's been no outreach. I could have clarified this point to you or anybody on the commission prior to that. Believe me, I know I don't look like it, but I actually am very approachable once we sit down and have some coffee. So I'm disappointed in it, and I'm sure this is going to cause a very big stir later tonight and tomorrow. But all I'm asking is that the commission goes through the appropriate steps in the idea of transparency, right? If we're going to put these items on the agenda, let's have people in the community that are concerned about this have the opportunity to come out, voice their concerns, let you and all the other commissioners know their feelings on the particular issue, and then we'll move forward. That's it. Believe me, there's no attempt to block any item by this commission, so long as we go through the proper steps, so long as we're in compliance with the municipal code and the negotiated settlement. That's it.
So, Lieutenant Green, I said I was going to ask you a question. I'm going to do it right now. Does the POA have any objection to this commission briefing council on its report?
Well, there's a couple of things. In particular, no, because this commission has the right to do that. But this commission has to correctly agendize the item.
So your objections are Brown Act related?
That, and then in the negotiated settlement, after this commission takes a position, if there are things that could come up against working conditions, like this most likely would, the POA has a right to enter into discussions with the city about how those would affect our rights.
And I understand that, but we're talking about a simple report to council in person. And then if council wants to take action, correct, the POA has the right to meet and confer. What I'm asking though is, absent that, a Brown Act violation.
The meet and confer is before it goes to council.
No, before council take action on their agenda, not on a report. So we're talking about just the reporting. After that, if council is going to take any of that up, the POA has that right. But I'm saying just simply on the basis of the reporting, other than a Brown Act issue, does the POA have any objection to us in-person briefing council on our report?
I think once, because of this commission has taken a position in the negotiated settlement, we have the right to work out any items that would affect working conditions. So once that's complete, like we negotiated in the settlement, there's no objection, right? If everything's done in the proper order and within the confines of the law, negotiated settlement and municipal code.
But how is the POA going to meet? How's the POA going to basically meet and confer with the city as to recommendations if we haven't presented the recommendations yet?
Well, once you make the recommendations, like you've come to a recommendation, I'm assuming there'll be a report about the recommendation, right? Then we have the right, per the negotiated settlement, to see that. And then we have the right to enter into negotiations with the city about working conditions.
So we present that report to council. to allow for the process you're talking about to begin, and it's up to council. In other words,
You have, per the negotiated settlement, I think you have the order.
I'm not sure how you would negotiate with the city about recommended changes prior to the recommended changes being received. And they're received when we brief council.
Right.
Do you
Well,
understand my point?
I don't because, and this is the reason why, because there's a negotiated settlement in place that specifically addresses this issue, that specifies that POA gets to enter into negotiations related to working conditions prior to that going to council. So
But how can,
we've already gone through this with the city, and we've made arrangements with them. And when we meet those steps as already identified through the proper channels, then there's no objection.
but how can you negotiate? How can you negotiate prior to the recommendations being received?
There's already a recommendation on the table by this commission. We know what the recommendation is.
But it's not received until we present it. But okay, I
the
understand your point.
question.
It sounds to me like in the end, for whatever reason that you stated, there are objections to us presenting it to council.
There are no objections for this commission to comply with the good negotiated settlement. There's
Chair,
none.
can I ask a question just to clean up the minutes? So if the commission, you're saying the commission completes a report, they vote on it. It's made, people are made aware that the report was voted on. That then triggers a meet and confer
That is my understanding.
prior to it
Correct.
going to council.
Correct.
So is a meet and confer already happening? That was the part that I didn't understand.
Not as of yet, no.
Okay.
There's two issues, and I think the chair touched on it. One, we still have a difference about whether the Brown Act was complied with. And then the second part is when does the meet and confer kick in? And it's my understanding that per the negotiated settlement, the timing has been placed after the commission's vote, before the report goes to the council.
And I respect your, I respect your position as chair. I think it's, no, that's never been an approach taken by the POA that I can recall with regards to any briefing I've done before council or this commission has ever done before council. And we've briefed council quite a few times, and that's never once been brought up, ever. Not once, not an objection.
Sorry, go ahead.
I think the idea that the commission cannot even present a report to council without negotiations happening about what might be in the report, that we can't present it to council without you conferring about what might be eventually presented, but has it been presented? I think that's, I don't think that holds. I'll put it that way. But I understand, but
The city has entered into a negotiated agreement.
I
Is there a problem with complying with the negotiated agreement?
don't think that's what it says. And I think this is a new approach that's never once been brought up in all the times that we've gone before council on the jujitsu things, the body cam things, on the complaints issues, on all of those things. Not once has this ever been brought up. And I don't understand the negotiated agreement to mean that, but that's up to the city attorney. I don't want to act like I'm representing the city in any kind of legal stance. I just think that this is a very new thing that I haven't heard. I hear what you're saying, that you believe the law has not yet been complied with and that your position, and therefore absent those things, it sounds like there is an objection prior to those things being satisfied. In your mind, there is an objection to us briefing council.
There's no objection so long as you comply with the Brown Act.
Which you
municipal
believe we
code,
have.
and the negotiated settlement.
Which you believe we haven't.
You have not done that yet. No.
Right, so there's an objection. I understand your position. I'm not trying to trap you. I promise you I'm not. Okay. Before I go to Commissioner Pelzo, is there anything else you wanted to say, sir?
Well, like I said, I appreciate your guys' time. There's several people, including Mr. Stroud and Mr. Miller, that brought up some good points. And I want to recognize you guys for doing that. That many of the things that have been rumored to be happening, even if true, which 98% of them are not, are within the normal scope and duties of an association, of a union, of any member of the city to reach out and contact council members. And I'll just leave you with this. I challenge any of you to find one council member, the city manager, that says that I came to them and made some allegation of putting pressure on them inappropriately as described. And I'm telling you right now, I will take you to dinner. I'll give you $1,000. I'll give you a paycheck, because I'm telling you, those things did not happen, unequivocally did not happen. And that's why I'm so disappointed that this would come from the dais, especially without just reaching out to me first. So I'll just put it out to any of you. If you guys ever hear a rumor, you want dispelled, you want conversation from me about the PLE's position, please reach out, because I'm telling you, we don't operate that way.
So
It's just beyond the pale.
So just to be clear, dinner, $1,000 and the paycheck.
Correct.
All right. Do we get to choose the restaurant?
Yeah,
No.
thank you for your time.
Commissioner Pellizzo, thank you. Good, Lieutenant Green.
Yes, I just want to make sure that I'm not barking up the wrong tree here, but based on the dates that were discussed, are we talking about a RIPA data report or the pretextual stops report?
I think ultimately we're talking about both, but primarily
But
we're
you
talking.
can't be talking
But
about anything
hold on,
pretextual stops.
Commissioner Pellizzo, you asked a question, sir. I would like to answer your question. I think primarily what we're addressing is the RIPA data.
And there's a report that we issued, and
There's a report that we approved.
okay, that doesn't seem to fit in with the dates and everything that was just thrown around, but because those dates strictly dealt with the issues of the pretextual stops discussions that we were having.
Which was also included in the RIPA report.
Well, no, the city council already spanked this commission quite thoroughly
Okay,
by misrepresenting
Sure.
pretextual.
so maybe you could tell me, Commissioner Pellizzo, although I take issue with the terminology, how the city council spanked this commission. Maybe you could tell us.
They pretty much
No.
advised this commission that in fact they were in violation of the Brown Act for the first time, lack of proper data notice, and then second, when you change the notice in the agenda to read RIPA as opposed to strictly pretextual stops.
City council never took issue with that.
The city attorney did, I'm sorry.
City attorney, well, I'm not going, see, I will say that's not
At least I
true.
was informed of that by a
So-
city council
so-
member.
I want to advise you of something. Right now, when you speak about what the city attorney has said to the commission in private, you're waiving attorney-client privilege for the commission, arguably. So I would advise, I'm going to shut that down right now. What I will say is that what you have said is inaccurate. Is there anybody, Commissioner Miller? Commissioner Rahman?
Yes, so I had a question. It was stated that some of us, not all of us, not me, anyway, knew about the, so this sentence reads, discussion regarding efforts to prevent commission from briefing council on RIPA, right? So the discussion is regarding efforts to prevent commission. Some of us, as stated, some of us were aware or are aware of certain allegations, certain rumors, whether it's true, whether it's not, whether it's just in the wind. Some of us knew about it. Did all of us know about it? I certainly didn't know about it. And if more than 2 or 3 people know about it, is that a violation of a Brown Act?
I'm not going to advise as to the legal bounds of the Brown Act on hypotheticals. What I'll say is that the Brown Act more concentrates on communications. But I'm not going to go into the weeds on it. And if commissioners want to speak up as to conversations they have had, that's up to them, and what they knew, that's up to them. But I'm certainly not going to go into hypotheticals and in the weeds on it.
Okay, and then I have one last question and I'll leave it alone. Do you think we'll ever have a city attorney present here? I know you're a great attorney. I'm just asking.
I would, having said that, and I don't want to go off agenda too much, I would love that. Oh my God, would I love that. We had counsel for a while, and then that was taken away from us. I would, I have in the past advocated for it. The city has undergone budget cuts, is what I've been informed, and that has led to the one not being present. Remember, we had one present in the beginning, and then we had a contracted attorney present. Oh my God, would I love that. So I don't know.
Is there something that we can do as a commission to ask for it?
Ask,
Doug Sloan?
ask.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for it.
Thank
I'm
you.
all for recording these meetings, filming these meetings, city attorneys present, all for it. Okay. Commissioner Scott.
I'm sorry, can I just make one clarification? You can, as individuals, email the city attorney to request their presence, but you could also, as a body, request it. So just wanted to make sure you knew there were.
I don't think
that
we
both
could do
ways.
that today because it's not agendized.
Got
But
it.
in the next meeting, if somebody wants to put on the agenda, please,
Thank you.
please. Commissioner Scott.
A couple of things. Number one, Lieutenant Green, I in no way wanted to even imply that it was you, right? So I want to clear that. I didn't name names. So I want to be clear in that, and I won't name names. And I did not have a Brown Act violation because I was not chatting with anyone on the commission. Be clear with that as well. And with respect, because I do have a question, because I know this was part of it, is this Brown Act violation with this notification. And if I'm not mistaken, and I will go to you, Ms. Parsons, with what is required notification and how have we been?
Let's not get too far off.
Okay.
Let's not go
All
into
right.
the weeds.
I just want to clear it up for everyone here. Okay, then I won't. But I'm going to take a moment like Commissioner Miller did, and I will say for me, maybe, I see that look, maybe not. I will say for me, I did have experiences last year with, I will not, I'm not going to say anything. I'll just keep it.
Okay.
Yield
Is
my
there anyone
time.
else? Commissioner Becerra.
I just wanted to say that to address Commissioner Scott's point, I'm honestly sad and surprised to hear that. I feel like we've been talking about the RIPA data for months now and kind of don't understand why this, like, if there was an issue with us bringing up our recommendations to city council, I just don't understand why there wasn't anything said about it prior by the POA. That's all.
Thank you so much. Is there anything else or can we move on? Let's move on. All right. Can you please read the next? Is there any motions? No, I don't think we need one. Right. Ms. Parson?
Item 1C, discussion regarding commission's priorities and plans for 2024. There is one speaker from Zoe.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let's go back. I did tell a community member who asked for public comment on the previous agenda item to be held at the end of the agenda item. I'm going to do that. So if there's anyone who wanted to speak on the previous agenda item, please do so. I'll give you 2 minutes.
Are you talking about 1B?
I'm sorry?
Are you talking about 1B?
Yes.
Okay.
Public comment, anyone? Okay.
Joanne Berlin. Don't know where to start. It's been fascinating to listen to this whole discussion. I was totally surprised by this. Angela and I worked together in another context. I knew nothing of this coming up tonight. But it did not surprise me because I think that Committee for Racial Justice had a workshop entitled "Who's Running This City?" And it's who has the money to control who gets on the city council. And so that's what this threat is about. It's not any other kind of threat other than withdrawal of funding to support candidates. I believe. That's what I believe I'm hearing. And I think that that's pretty clear. That's been our experience with the city. That money control, that's experience with almost every city problem. Money controls what happens. The biggest pot of money, I could be wrong about this, but I don't think I am. I think the biggest pot of money that goes into our elections locally comes from the POA. There's a lot of other money, I understand that, but I don't think that's organized money. I don't think it's, those of us who are trying to deal with social justice issues don't have that kind of money, don't throw money into campaigns the way the POA does. So I think that's what we're talking about here. And I think people need to be clear on that. If I'm wrong, somebody needs to school me on that.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on this agenda item? Oh, hold on.
Okay.
There you go.
I just wanted to agree that I think there should be more transparency and accountability, and I definitely agree with potentially including a city attorney in these meetings just for transparency purposes. So we're all aware, community members, commissioners, and everyone, that we're protecting potentially groups that are usually excluded. And I would like to add that those include people with disabilities and women, in addition to the groups already mentioned. And I think those are really important groups to continue to advocate for and include to within police accountability in all capacities. So thank you.
I wanted to add that when I saw the RIPA, people with disabilities were even higher stopped and arrested. And as someone who was diagnosed with a disability last year, and had been victimized by wrongful arrests, I think the presence of the city attorney at these meetings is essential, is crucial, and is critical. I also wanted to add that in the working conditions comment of the POA, on New Year's Eve, I saw 2 officers at 8 p.m. at TJ Maxx shopping, and it's a day that the police should be on the streets policing, not shopping for personal gifts. Thank you.
Make a motion. One second. Okay, next agenda item is 1C. It was going to be to kind of outline our priorities, what we hope to accomplish, address. We've had some delays, a long meeting, 9 o'clock. Does anybody want to make a motion to continue that to the next meeting?
I shall make a motion.
Wait, hold on. Not all.
The motion.
Commissioner Rahman, did you make that motion?
I would like to make a motion to move it to the next meeting. Thank you.
Seconded by everyone. Commissioner Scott, can we do this by acclamation? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? None. Okay, great. Meeting adjourned, everyone. Happy New Year.